Okay, hello guys. Welcome back to the session for unit tests, theory and practice. The idea for today is continue with the example to include the unit testings using any unit to the project that we are sharing. At the moment we have the project in this URL. So let me share with you the URL. Give me a second. Yeah. So this is the URL. It's my account on GitHub. This is github.com/users74/workshopnet. So here you can see this repository. So the idea with this repository, you can try to download this, to clone this repository here, okay? And locally create your branch, and you can start with this repo. Okay. At the moment, I'm using the GitHub desktop. That's the library, that's the application, sorry, for the interact with the project. So currently I will be create my own branch using my name. So my nickname. So I will be use this one. Okay, I will be creating a new branch here. I'm creating this branch from the master. I will be publish this branch. So the idea is using this branch, I'll come here to my repositories. In this case, I'm using this WorkShop.net, and using Visual Studio, I'm opening this project here. Okay. Please let me know if you have problems with this repo, and I can give you some permissions over that. Okay, so let me close a couple of things here. Well, regarding with the name of the application, let me read a little bit more. What is the objective for this application? This is an application to include some IDs validation, but we are comparing and doing a benchmark over the different kind of methods, how to do some kind of validation IDs. So this application validate an identifier using the valid rules. First is an identifier must not null or empty. An identifier must have at least 5 characters and max 32 characters. An identifier must start with an uppercase letter. And so the idea is try to use these validations using first, using regular expressions. Second, using normal if statement. And the last one is a throw exception in case any rule is not followed. So there are 3. I'm adding a new one here using Pkr. Pkr is a library special to use regular expressions. It's faster than the normal regular expression for .NET. So I will be show you how this thing works. And so the idea is the application show the list for each broken rules, and if the identifier is correct, return an empty list. Okay. The application must be executed 1 million iterations for each method, regular expression, if, and exception. And for each iteration, the tags must be executed first. A call with identifier without problem. A call with identifier does not meet minimal length. A call with a string does not meet a maximal length. A call on a string does not meet the capital letter rule. Its execution must be measured total execution time and the average and total procedure memory consumption that each method. And the idea is show times and memory processor information, and this is the method in console. This list of acceptance criteria is related with the things that we have to do in the console application. So for the unit test, we must use these rules as part of the kind of the operations that we have to test this kind of implementations. Okay, so if we can see here, for example, let me show you what I'm doing here of the rule. Here I'm using a normal project. I created a normal project for application console. Okay, and if you can see here, I'm running on a specific test. The first one is a normal right identifier. Okay, start with a capital letter. The second one, a bad minimum length. Okay, that's suppose that the minimum length is 5 characters, so I'm creating one with a less than that character. A bad maximum length, that means I have the maximum length is 32. I'm adding a new one. I'm putting the path right zeros. In this case, I'm adding 33 zeros at the right. And the last is the bad initial capital letter identifier. So I'm creating an identifier starting with a digit, not a normal character. Okay. For this case, I'm executing this method. The first method execute the regular expression validate. The second is an if statement validate. The third is throw exception validate, and the fourth, and including Pkr Validator. Okay. How this things works? So the idea is very simple. So I will be execute first, for example, the if statement validate. So let me put on comments this. Okay. I'm trying to explain how the console application works first. Okay. Just only to understood how we can include this unit test, because remember, the most of the common developers at the beginning only does the code, and at the end that's supposed that they have to add the unit test. Using TDD, that's the opposite. That's you started using or creating your unit test, and to complete the unit test, you need to add the code and refactor the code. That's to organize the normal characteristics to include in your code. Okay, so what we are doing right now here, I'm getting the current process. That's most for to include what is the process that we are running right now, because at the end we need that kind of process to getting how much memory we are consuming. That's the thing that we are doing right now here. The next one is I'm including the method that I'm running. This is the method validation that I'm including here. Okay. In this execution, because I'm creating this function here. So I will show you later how what I'm doing. I'm starting to put this name here. Here started a watcher. So this watcher is a library that's allowed to put a timer that you can start it and stop it at the end. And when we'll stop it here, I can get it the difference elapsed time for that thing. So with this elapsed time, I can get it how much time consumed this operation to be completed. Okay, so inside, I'm creating a new list here. That's suppose that I'm running with the iteration limit. In this case, is 1 million of iterations. And for each iteration, I'm getting this validation method. First, it's validate the right identifier, the but the identifier length, minimal length, maximal length, and capital letter for each of those. Okay. So what I'm doing right now here, or how suppose that I will do this, I'm creating a validation method. If you see these validation methods is integrated here, and how this validation methods works. So this validation method is a normal validator. I'm creating a validator. I'm following the factory method. I'm creating different kind of validators. So in this case, for example, I'm putting this identifier, and in this case, the identifier is the kind of validation that we are creating. So if the identifier is a if statement validation, I'm creating a new if statement validator, and I only have to use validator.validate with the identifier, and that's it. How this things works, this validator works very simple. I'm including first rules validations and the iValidate method. So let me show you how these things I have. With the rules validation is a normal rule. This is an abstract class. For this class, I'm including the validation. First, initial capital letter. Second is not null or empty. That's pretty simple to execute it here. And the third is valid maximum length. The fourth and five, sorry, is the valid minimum length. So with this, I'm adding iValidate method. For the validate method, it's an interface that I'm including just only validate and the identifier. So, okay, with this thing, I'm executing here first. For example, I'm executing here the validate. So for this call, I'm executing first is null empty identifier with the identifier. Is null empty, I'm generating here this new error and adding that error to the validation message using this. This is a normal string that's the identifier. This is a constant validation. The identifier must not be null or empty. If you see, we have the others validations. There are errors messages here. So for this case, validation, if it's not null or empty, so I can do the other validations. So first one is validate if is not valid maximum length. So I'm adding is not valid maximum length. If not valid minimum, sorry, if not valid maximum here. So I'm doing, if not initial capital letter, I'm doing this. And how is this implementation, especially for this? This implementation is validate. I'm putting this initial capital letter and validate if char is upper the identifier for the first character on this. So I'm validating here. Okay, this is a normal because the rules say that I'm validating this must be an identifier start with an upper case letter. Okay, so this is the first rule that I'm doing here. The second rule is null empty. That's I'm validating using my base class. Okay, and the third is valid maximum. So for that, I'm validating if the maximum length is less than or equal the maximum length allowed. For the valid minimum length, I'm doing the length is greater than or equal that the minimum length. Okay, so this is a normal validation that we are doing here. If you see, it's so simple validations. So that the propose for this is run these operations. Okay, in this case is 1 million of limits in this case. So if I can see here, you can use it this. Okay, you can use underscore, for example, if you want to add readable to this. That is a representation for a 32-bit six-signed integer. In this case is 1000. Okay, so for example, if I want to change here just only to 10 or something like that, okay, just only to execute it a minimum times to validate here. So when I run it this, the idea is that the first execute the valid method. If you see, this method is the method name. So what that method comes, if you see here, this is the validate state, and this is the method. I'm using a functional here, okay? And in this function is a lambda expression to use a lambda function that you can use it, and that's supposedly I'm receiving a string, and I'm returning a list string. Okay, so let me execute it just only to understand how this thing works. Okay, I will be put here a breakpoint, and we can see how this thing works. Okay, I have to run it. It's building the application. Okay, just started. So here, you see, I will be put it step into. So I come here, I'm getting first the process, the current process, the validation name. If you can see here, the validation name is if statement validate, like you see here. Okay. I'm writing this on the console. You can see here, if statement validate. So title here, and start my watch. Reset my list errors, and come here for the limit. In this case is 10, and I change here. I'm started using a dot as a guide that's the process is running. So I'm executing the first validate method. What is the first validate method I'm doing here? In this case is the if statement validate. So when I executed this, I'm come here for the validate methods. If the statement validate, if you can see, is here, is this method. Okay, and I come here. I'm creating a new validator. In this case, is the if statement validator. So when I come here, I'm creating a new one. This validator is for if statement. You can see here, it's an if statement validator. Okay, and I say, okay, just validate the first identifier. For my first identifier is a normal identifier. That's okay. That's suppose that we have not to get any errors in the list. So I come here. Okay, I will be execute. So the first validation is the identifier is not null or empty. That's okay. Validate the minimum length. That's not problem. Maximum length, no problem. Capital letter, no problem. So my expected result here is an error list with zero items in the errors, okay? Or an empty list. That's the same thing. When I get in this, that's no problem. I'm getting. So the next one is execute the minimum length identifier. So I'm executing the same validator again. Okay. But the validation here is first, it's not null empty. Okay. Valid minimal length. So when executing the minimal length here, you can see that's we have an error. So I'm adding this error on the list. At the moment I have one error, and the first error is the identifier must be at least 5 characters in length. Okay. So validate the maximum that's not allowed, and the capital letter also. You see, I'm doing the same for the others validations, error list, and at the end, I'm expecting that the error list should only have one. Okay. When I'm do the same for the next one, I'm doing the every time that I'm executing. Okay. At the end, when I run it until here, okay, hold on. Until here. Okay. So the error list as an error just must be started with the capital letter. Okay. That's we have this lapse of time. Okay. This is the normal iteration that we have here. At the end, that's all that we have to do. We get in the error, and that's it. So what we expected to be here, we have 10. We run it over 3 minutes and 3 seconds, and the memory usage was nearly to 1 megabyte, for example, and that's it. That's all that we have. Okay, as you see, this is a creation for different kind of method of validation that we have. You see, we have maybe an error over this because I'm only adding a new one. Okay, and the error list is created inside. So the idea is we need to validate all these validators. In this case, we have if statement validator, as you see, this is the validator. Okay. The other one is the regular expression validator. So that works at the same, but to execute the initial capital letter, I'm executing a regular expression here. You see, I'm using regular expression for all of those. The regular expression for initial capital letter that I'm using in this case is this, for example, if you see, regular expression for initial capital letter, regular expression for maximum length, regular expression for minimum length. Okay. I have different kind of regular expression for this. The other one is the throw exception validator. In this validator, I'm executing different kind. And if I get in this, I'm doing throw new exception and adding this method and this exception. Okay. At the end, I'm adding a new message from the exception. This is a different kind of validation. This is only for this example. Please don't do this. That's not right. Okay. And the last one that I'm executing is a Pkr Validator. The Pkr Validator, I'm using a special user. Sorry, a special object is a Pkr regular expression. This library is a Pkr is a regular expression validator that use a different kind of implementation for regex. That means for regular expression. It's very, very, very fast, faster than the normal regular expression validation. So I'm executing this. Okay. So how suppose that we have to do? If you have to choose this validation, so the idea is we need to add some projects that we are using. Okay. So at the moment, at the right side, I'll create it here a folder called unit test. Okay, I'm following the rules that we saw yesterday. The first thing that we have to do is for the project that we have here, we need to add a new test project here, and that project must be ending using unit.test. Okay, so if we remember the rules yesterday, okay, over the practice, let me refresh a little bit. Oh, what? Sorry, I don't know what's happened with my keyboard. Let me, I get this maybe on. What the fuck? Something's weird. Okay, so maybe I can show you the original for that thing when I get it that. Okay, for testing, unit testing, this is unit test naming convention standards. What? Hold on a second, please. I don't know what happened. That's weird. Something's happened with my keyboard. That's not responding. Let me try again. Okay. This is the original thing that I mentioned yesterday that you can see. You have the model and the pattern. So the first rule is create the unit test project using this convention. Okay. So is the name of the project, doesn't matter what is the name it is, and adding unit.test. So for here, I will come here, okay? I will be add a new project. So click it over here, right click, and add new project, new project. And in this case, I will be using the template for unit test. Okay, so I have it here. Choose here test. Okay, and I'm getting this. I have here the unit test. I will be sure to use end unit. Why end unit? Because the end unit must be the library or the framework that we want to use it. By default, test project that we can use is Microsoft Test, but this is old version for the frameworks. There are two others. One else is NUnit, and the last one could be XUnit. The XUnit is a little bit more recently than the other ones, but the most popular project in this case is the NUnit. So I will be using NUnit at the moment. If you wanted, we can maybe, if we have a little more time, we can try to use an XUnit test. For the moment, I'm using NUnit test project. Okay, so choose this, go to next. I'm here. So the idea is, remember, use the pattern that we saw. So in this case is WorkShop net dot app.unit.test. Okay, using the plural as we can see here. Okay, .unit.test. Okay, so perfect. So let me choose the right folder. So in this case is tests. This is for unit tests. This is the folder for here. Say next. I'm using I'm not sure if framework 5, I guess. Yes, it's a framework 5. Look at here. So I'm using this framework for now. Doesn't matter if it's not off of support. Okay, perfect. So if you have seen here, I'm creating the project. By default, the template adding me a new class here. Okay. So with the default things that we have to use. Okay, I will be creating a new. So that's suppose that I want to test the first validator. So my first validator in this case is this if statement validator. Okay. So if I want to validate this validator, I have to use a new class for this. So adding a new file class for this. I'm following the previous pattern. So the idea is using the convention. Okay. If the name is books controller book service, we adding books controller test in plural or book service text in plural. So in this case, following the same pattern, I will be adding a new, this is a new class. Oh my gosh, it's a new class. Okay. For my side, the class name is the same as this if statement validator test. Okay. So here I will be put if statement validator and adding the suffix test. Remember in plural. Okay. Let me see. It's okay. If statement validator, if statement validator. Yeah. Okay. Okay, perfect. So I have it this. So the first thing that we have is by default, this is the namespace that we are executing. That's no problem. And then the next is the name of the class. So when we are creating a new class file, by default, internally, they are using the same name. So that's following the rules that we have here. Okay. There's no problem because the same name is here. And the namespace is the namespace for the unit test, so now it doesn't matter. Okay. So perfect. So the next thing is that we have to do is adding the methods to validate. Okay. So here, I come here and I will be changed here as public. Okay. And if you see, let me show you something. If you see here, okay, you have some annotations that you can use. In this case, these annotations allows that you adding new characteristics over these kind of classes. Okay, so the first annotation that I want to use is an annotation that's allowed using fixtures over the classes. So I will be used here. Let me change my, okay, and it will be this. Okay, and let me that the using control dot or come here, and I will be adding this package. So I will be use it later. So I will be use this. Okay. Install this package with the latest version. So by default, I'm using this. No problem with that. Okay. So internally, let me see what else. Okay. I think that's not working right now. Okay, I will be deleted for right now. Maybe we can take a look later about that. Okay, the first thing that we have to use is, if you see my IDE suggests to me to create a new test. So if I choose press tab and press enter, I can see that I'm adding this annotation. And for this annotation, I will be putting here to say, okay, please use NUnit framework. So in this case, I'm using. So let me run in my extension to CutMate, clean up, clean up the code in this case. Okay, perfect. So in here, I'm using N framework. And what suppose that I have to do? I will be, first of all, create a function, okay, to implement this. So if I can see here's the validation, okay, I can see that he has a method. The first method is validate, okay, this is the public method that we have. And for this one, that's suppose that I have to implement these special cases, okay? So what suppose that we have to do here? The simple thing is that we have to create an instance for the statement validator, okay? And after that, we have to execute this validate, okay? So if I have to create a new instance, the first thing that I will need is create. Let me put this on comment for right now. Oh, sorry. And I have to create private if validator, if a statement validator, sorry. Okay. But I need the statement validator object and if a statement validator. Okay. And in this case, I will be at a reference, okay, for this statement validator. What happened here? The problem is that I'm not using, okay, I'm not using this project. So I have to come here and reference, okay, if you can see, I'm not reference the project that I'm testing. So I have to test this this element, okay. So how we can do this is creating in this case a reference for the project that we have here, or separate this logic to a library. For the moment, I don't want it to use this. So that in this case, let me see it a little bit thing. Hold on a second. Let me see. I have it here, the previous version that we have. Okay, for the tests to add in. Okay, this is the thing that I'm doing. Okay. So you have all the tests here. So the idea is, oh, okay, I remember that. It's a iValidate method. Okay, perfect. Yeah. No. Okay. It's not if statement validator. Why? Because the implementation by default is this one. It's an if statement validator. So I have to add first a reference for the project. So here I have to use the if statement validator. Okay. So if you can see, we have here an iValidator. Okay. If you see this validator that you can see here, you have an iValidate method. Okay. So the first thing that we have to do is add a reference, add a project reference that I have to test. In this case, is my project workshop net. Okay. Using this, yeah, no problem. So I'm come here. Let me close the other one steps. Okay, so here using this kind of things, I can create two things. First thing is I can use it this implementation, or I can use the same implementation that I mentioned before. Let me show you what I'm doing. And the moment, for example, I'm creating a iValidate method. and I'm instance this validation. Okay. So for example, I'm using this and I'm creating a new one. Okay, perfect. Let me try to do it at the first. So if I create this new one, okay, I'm creating a new validator. Let me try to do this, maybe could be works also. So by default, when I try to test a new object, so the idea is we are using this suffix to implement this call. So in this case, I'm using test as a prefix of the name of the validation. Okay. I'm using this, I will be use the setup. What is the setup? The setup is the first function that every time that you run a new test or new function text, this function is executed. So in this case, I will be creating a public void setup, okay? And in this function, I will be trying to create a here test if statement validator equals new if statement validator, okay? And that's it. Okay, and now what suppose that we have to do here? I will be creating a new test and taking a look over the validator. I can see if the test is for validate, but the first test that we have is this, if valid, null, or empty. Okay, so when I'm doing this, I'm creating my new method to validate. I'm following the rules. I have to do this. In this case, you can see here the word fact. Fact is the annotation for X unit. Okay. As you see here, for example, in my case, you can see here in the previous version, I was using fact. Okay. So that's no problem with this. So what I can do it. So I will be put this public. Okay. It's a void method. I'm not returning and don't return anything. So I following the rules. That's suppose that we have to use first the name of the class that I'm testing. You see, book service, my case. Then the method that I'm doing or that I'm trying to execute, and the parameters or the special condition that I want to validate. So for this case, for example, I have to use if statement validator because I'm trying to use this. Okay. So I can put it if statement, statement validator. And what I want to do here, I want to execute the validate because it's the method that I'm calling. You can see here, that is the method that I'm calling. The only public method that I can validate here is this. Okay. And what I want to do here, validate on string null or empty identifier. Okay. Better null empty identifier. Null or empty identifier. And this, I have to suppose that I have to send a failure. Okay, because if I running this, I'm trying to get in an error. Okay, so let's suppose that I have to do this. The first thing that I'm following is starting using the AAA pattern. So the AAA pattern say you have to put it first, arrange, act, and asserts. Okay, so asserts only, that's no problem. With what we need in a range, the first thing that we need in a range is a string, okay, identifier, and it's in string that empty. Okay, this is the thing that we have. The other thing that we need here, okay, is var result equal, in this case is test validate statement validate identifier. Okay, and what suppose that we have in the asserts? For the asserts, we suppose that if this is working fine, this validation for an empty validate, an empty identifier, I'm returning something here in this list, okay, the error list. Okay, so what suppose that we are have to return? I'm suppose that I'm returning this with this identification. Okay, so here I have to put this assert first is not null. In this case, more that is not null. Is not null, for example. Okay. Second validation is assert that is not empty. Okay. What is not empty? The result. Okay. The other thing that I'm expecting is assert dot are equal what? One. What? Result dot length. That count, sorry. Because I expecting that I'm receiving an error. Okay. Remember, always at the beginning, you have to put first the expected value, and the right side is the value that you are returning. Let me see what I'm doing here. Remember, okay, system collection generics. So that's happened because I am not adding this list string. Okay, for this, I have to add system collection generics at the beginning. Yeah, you see, that's what's the problem that you can see here. So in this case, that's maybe, let me see it. No, that's okay. Let's count. Yeah. What is the error here? What is the suggestion? Oh, there are suggestions and different kind to.
It looks like if it's backwards. I mean, first the count of the result and then the number of to evaluate.
Yeah, no, but that's a different kind of notation, really. They are using a different kind of notation. There's a new one notation that we are using here. So there are no problem. If you can see here, for example, this is the rule in the constraint model. If I am doing, they are doing this. Assert that for result.count is equal to. This is a different way to you can implement this. If you can see here, for that is the actual size over the expression that you can validate. So there are two ways that you can ask, using this or at the equal thing. And for the last one, so that's suppose that we have to validate the content. So remember, always when do you have to execute some kind of test, you have to validate the structure, the length, and the end is the content or verification for the content of the executions. Okay, so here I will be validate assert dot, in this case, are equal. So I will be put here what is the content that I'm expecting here? The content that I'm expecting here is this. Okay. Remember, I'm using this constant. I can use the same constant here. So let me see it. That's maybe it could be work. This dot and result 0. This here is this show me that I can changes also, but I will be later in this way, just only to see that could be works at the same way. Okay. So let me run this test. How suppose this test works? So the first thing that I'm okay. Let me change here. Identifier. Okay. So let me run this and see what happens. Okay. Okay. So when I'm running this, I can come to the text explorer. In this case, if you can see here the text explorer, I'm here. You can come here. You can see the workshop.net unit test. I'm here. You can see the unit test here. Say, okay, you have two. One test. Oh, what is this test? Sorry, I don't deleted this. Let me delete it, this previous version. Okay. Okay. Now let me compile again. Control Shift V. Okay. Perfect. So here you have this. As you can see here the name for this. Okay. So we are supposing that this is a failure test because you are expecting a fail. Okay. The other way that you can put this is not using failure. You can use it an expected result. Okay. That's the other way that we can use it. So first of all, let me run in this first. Okay. And we can see what happened. I will be put here a breakpoint. And now I come here, right click and say running in debug. Okay. If I run this in debug mode, I can see what happened internally. So press F10 here. I'm executing this. Let me go execution. Okay, come here, come to the identifier. Okay, come here and adding the values. Okay, I'm returning the list. And I can say, okay, first of all, it's not null or empty. If I can see the watches, okay, I have one, so that's okay. It's not empty, that's okay. Is equal to 1, that's okay. And in this case is result. The first name is identifier must be not null or empty. If I can see here, result, you can see this is the name, this is the content, this is the same content. So when I run it, okay, everything is working fine. So you can see we can come here, okay, we can come here and we can get it. That's this run. Okay, if I run it this again only without debug, I can run. We are executing the same, and voila, it's taking only 24 milliseconds to run. Okay, so if we can see this, the idea is we have to follow the main flow. What means the main flow? If I come here, the main flow is, first of all, running this condition. I can get in this. So the second condition is valid minimum length. Okay. So in this case, I have to add a function for validate the minimum length. Okay, so in this case, I can come here and add in a new test. I'm sorry, new test. I have to put it public void. Okay, that like I mentioned before, the name here for if because I'm running in this validator, you can suppress. So sometimes that could be, you can suppress here, and the only thing that you need to is start with the name of the object of this method that you want to use. So come here, validate identifier with minimum length and expecting a failure. Okay. So if you can see, I can using the same thing here. Okay. And I can put it here. And the only thing that I need to change is if I'm expecting a failure, I will be put, first of all, something like this, a minimum length 1 to 3, because I know that the minimum length is 5. Okay. So if I'm, what things that I'm expecting here, I'm expecting first is not null. First, the second is not empty. That's what happened in this case. For example, if I put minimum length in this case, let me see. I know that maybe I can get more errors. Okay, I will be put it this, and that's not right. For example, this is not right, and this is not right because I'm adding a different things because I'm broken the other rules if I'm sending this. You know what happened? Because, for example, I'm not starting with that capital letter here. So let me test. I will be put here this, and I come here. Okay, I will be sorry. Let me run it. Okay, debug test. I press right click inside of these braces, and this happened. Okay, I come here to validators. Okay, so let me go in. Press F11. Come here. Okay, that's okay. I can say, oh, okay, we'll have something here. It's valid minimum length. So come here. Yeah, the minimum length, the length is 3. That's suppose that's greater or equal the minimum. The minimum is 5. So that's a return of false. You can see. When I'm returning a false, I'm adding this validation. I'm here is not maximum length. Yeah, that's not okay. But what happens with the capital letter? If you see, I'm doing this. I'm checking this capital letter. I'm return false. Okay. So this false. I have a problem here. You see, because I'm adding a different unit test at the same time. Okay. So what happened here? I'm expecting different things because I'm sending a minimum length, but my validator inside are generating 2 rules validations. So when I'm doing this, that's not empty. So the count, remember the count is 2, not 1. So what these things happen, I have an error. Okay. So in this case, expected was 1, but it's 2. You see, that's the problem that we have here. So what happened? The unit test failed. Okay. So when these things happen, I can see, oh, okay, I have a problem. If I come here to the text explorer, I can see, oh, what I have a problem with this. Okay. If I run it directly, for example, from text explorer, if I run it this, I have to say, okay, run the all test. You can see it's running this pass and they have an error. If I click it over here, I can see, oh, okay, I have a message, expected 1, but was 2. Okay. The step validator, okay, I have something, an error here, line 44. Okay, okay. If I click it here, they come here, say, okay, I have problem here. Okay. So what I need to do into the test, the thing is put it something that don't broke the other rules that I'm expecting validate. Okay. And for the other side, I know that this message is not the real message that I'm expecting. The real message that I'm expecting in this case is something like this. Okay. Is minimal less this character. And this is the minimum length error. Okay. So I come here and inspect it, the minimum length, okay, for this. I want to change this in this notation. I can use it this. This is notation is calling flow notation. I don't remember exactly. Fluent notation, I guess is that. This is name of this notation. What do you want it? So in this case, I can change here that, and I say that something like this. Result here is dot equal to, and in this case, okay, perfect. It's a different notation to do the same thing. That's no problem. Okay, perfect. So the other thing that we need to do, for example, if I run it this, I'm coming here now. And when I run it this, say, okay, run it everything. Voila, it's working. Okay. So what do you think we need to do? The next flow that we need to do is running for the maximum length. So I will be putting this here with maximum length. Maximum length failure. What is the maximum length? So I have to put this dot path right, and I will put this, and in this case is total. Let's say let me see a program, I guess, that I have more clarified here. Yeah, I'm using this. Okay. Great. Okay, this is the identifier. So what I'm expecting, once only I add in the capital letter at the beginning to don't broke the other rule. I'm putting this. Okay. So I'm expecting here is a maximum length error. Okay, it's maximum length error. Okay, perfect. What is the last one thing that I need to test? The same, only for the capital letter at the beginning. Okay, if I come here, I come here, identifier without capital, with or no. Yeah, without capital letter begin failure. Okay, so I have to don't broke the other rules. Okay, so in this case is minimum 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, minimum and maximum is not capital letter at the beginning. So I come here and I say, okay, my error in this case is that not initial capital letter. Okay, and that's it. That's all covered. When I run it this, you can say, okay, just run. And voila, we have all the testings covered using this. Okay, this is the normal thing that we are doing. Okay, but if we can see, for example, I'm expecting, for example, what happened if I expecting 2 errors? Okay, for example, not minimal length and not capital letter. Okay, that's the error that we have here. You see, so I have to put something like this, and I'm gonna say, okay, what happened? You can see validate identifier without capital letter and minimal length failure. Okay, so that's the thing that's happened before. Okay, so what happened in this? This is related with this. Okay, so what happened? What are the expected results? I'm expecting 2. Okay, sorry, I'm expecting 2 errors. Okay, and the first error must be this one, minimum length, and the second one must be the capital letter. Okay, this is the kind of operation that I'm expecting. So I want to run it directly, and maybe we can see what happened. Okay, if I run it, you can see this is not working yet. Okay, we have an error. What happened here? So the problem is, let me see it. You can see, okay, we are expecting, say, okay, the expected value, the string length is 44, but was 51, the string different at 20. Expected identifier must be start with a capital letter, but was the identifier less 5 character in length. Okay, so that the problem is here. I missed this. Okay, let me run it again. Is I want to run it only this one, just only click it and then on this. Okay, okay, let's run it. If I run it everything, okay, perfect. That means that everything works. You can see all the rules works and everything working fine. Okay, that's working from this kind of execution. So in this case, if I write with this, I have to add in the other validation. For example, the regular expression validator, okay, for through exception validator, and for Pkr Validator. If you can see, the same validation applies to all the same. Okay. So what do you think that we can do? You can cut and copy this and change, okay, and implement the different validation because it's working at the same thing. You can see. So the idea is cover more code. So I can click it over here, copy, paste it. I come here and change. The first one is I will be use regular expression validator. So I know this is a regular expression validator test. Okay. So I come here, I will be change if the statement validator test for regular expression validator test, or better, I can change this one. All that call it validator for regular validator. Okay, choose only the current document. Okay, perfect. So I'm using the same. Okay, that's suppose that must be works at the same thing. If I come here and I run it again, okay, that's not running yet, and now I want to rerun it. Voila, we executed everything with the same. The next one, I will be use it, for example, Pkr Validator. Okay, so I come here. It's the same logic. Remember, it's the same logic. That's the thing that we are using. Okay, the same logic. So I will be copy this one. Now paste here. I will be changing the name for Pkr Validator. Okay. Change Pkr Validator test. Okay, I come here, I will be change regular expression validator for Pkr Validator, the current document. Okay, perfect. So let me run it again. Okay, it is not running yet. Okay, perfect. It's working fine. So now let me do it, the last one. Throw exception validator. And there are a special case here that I want to show you. I will be, sorry, create this one. Oh, this one is good. Copy, right click, paste. And let me change here. Let me see what happened. Okay, this one. Oh, sorry, I not added the test at the end. Test. Okay. And now I come here and I will be change this for this. Okay. And I come here and I will say, okay, that's working fine, running. Oh, what happened? The problem is that for this in a special thing, we are generating exceptions. You see, we are not generating uh, executions, special execution for this. And the validations that we have here is validate everything. But if we have some exception here, we are getting. So these have a different notation. Here, for example, for the capital, we have an error here. Okay, the expected was 2, but was 1. See what happened in this case? So where is the trace? Let me see it. It's here. It's a without capital letter and minimal length failure. That something happens here. You see? So when these things happen, we have an error. So in this case, we need to validate what is happening here. You see? That's the thing that's the unit test helps. If you see the same behavior was working for everything, but not for this. So we have a problem with that. So let me run it and try to fix it. Okay. If I run this using debug mode, I come here. Okay. Neural empty is working fine. Yeah, it's working. Minimum length. Oh, boom. It's generating an exception. Okay. And the error list is added. But you see, I'm returning only 1 because that's not running for all the other things. You see? So that means that this implementation for the throw exception is not working. You see? Because I'm returning exceptions. If I return an exceptions, if I return an exception here, something's happened. So what we need to do? So in this case, maybe, if I get in an error here, okay, I need to change this implementation. You see? Because the problem is I'm returning an exception, and the exception is captured, okay? And I need to validate the others, okay? How we can do this? I don't know. We need to validate, for example, not throw an exception at the end, or change this throw exception, capture exception, and adding, but complete the other things, or only catching exception for each of those. For example, I can come here and I can say, okay, it's working fine. And I can do something like this. 1 for this one. Only validate for this. The next one is only validate for the minimum length. Okay. If you see, I have a big mistake here. Okay. For now, I only want to support this, but the thing is, that means that that we have a problem with this implementation. I have to think a different way to implement this, because this is not normal. You see, this is not good. This implementation is not good implementation. You see, something has happened. Null, minimum length, maximum length, and capital letter. If I do this, maybe I can support the rules for the test, but it's not working fine. Let me run it again. I come here. Is not null or empty. That's okay. Minimal length. That's got an exception. Adding the error. And now maximum length. And now capital letter. Have an exception. And adding new one. And I'm returning 2. Okay. So what happened with the test? And now the test is running fine. You see? But now you can see that's not good implementation for this. You see, we have a problem, but it's more a problem for the developer right now. Okay, so I don't want to fix it for the moment. Just only I want to that you can see what happens with this kind of test, because you can see the test helps to understand what happened with the normal execution that you have, and that's the way that you maybe have to validate. Other thing that we can do right now is, okay, what happens if we validate that kind of things? Okay, so you can see this. So in this way, I cover it. If statement, I cover regular expression validator, I cover it fraud exception, I cover it Pkr. Okay, but what happened with the other things? So let me show you something. Here I have a special extension adding to my environment. So let me show you what extension they have. First one is CodeMate. That CodeMate helped me to clean my code. Okay, is more healthy my code. This is try to let me remove unnecessary variables, remove unnecessary namespaces. That's helped me a lot with this. This is the CodeMate. The other extension that I want to show you is this. I have installed here. We will be using a new extension. In this moment, I'm using Generate Builder from C# model. I'm creating a new specific validator. A builder. I will be share with you later this extension. But the other extension that I want that you install is this one. Find code coverage. Okay, this extension allow that you see what is the code coverage in your local code. Okay, so what happened with this? When I run in the code and the test, I run in this. Okay, all the test is running. Oh, it's not empty again. Okay, you see, I did a change over my code, and this is not. This is failing. Yeah, because I'm running this, and that's happened. Okay, let me fix it later. I want to show you this. Define code coverage. It is this? This is an extension when you can see what is the coverage for your code. Let me show you. Okay, sorry. Okay, you can see here. Okay, I have covered, for example, for this validator. Okay, 100%, 100%, 100%. Oh, this one. Validate methods is not covered yet. Okay, 0%. And in this, okay, that's not problem with this. I don't know. We have a problem with this. Okay, because the last one is not working. One of those is not working. You can see. For a special thing, this one, for example, validate methods. I can see these methods, and when I can see, oh, everything in red is not covered yet. Okay, you can see. So what is this? What is this? This is the implementation for the interface for the validate methods. Okay, So the previous was directly executed. Okay. With this is the factory method. Depends of the kind of the validator that you are running. You use this. Okay. So for this one, you have to execute this the same change, the same calls using this, and the same code using this, the same code using this, and the same code using this. Okay. So with this, you can see what is the coverage. So that's suppose that I have to implement this validate methods test. I'm calling the all methods using the different validations. Okay. Is clear for now? You have questions until this moment?
I did have a question, but I guess it answered itself. Like, is it possible that the extension might make a mistake and you already covered something, but it doesn't show up? But I'm guessing it worked with the names. So as long as you name the things right, it's gonna be working, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you can see everything that is covered. You can see it over here. Okay. But the real thing that's maybe you can see here is that if you have something that's are you missing, you can see here. At the moment that when you completed everything, that's okay. For example, for program is not a class that's maybe you need to test. So when these things happen, okay, you only have to put something like this. Let me remember exactly where I have to put it. I'm not sure, but I get this exclude. When I don't want it included in this. Exclude coverage. Coverage. It's a notation that we need to do. Now, I don't remember exactly what is the notation. So let me search it and I will be showing you the next class, okay? Okay, guys, that's only that I have to share with you. Sorry?
Sorry, what was the notation for?
Oh, this notation is when do you run it or do you don't want it, something is excluding for the coverage, you can use it that kind of notation to the code coverage excluded for the process. So that's a notation that
for things that cannot be tested, like files and stuff like that, maybe.
Yeah, that's not testing. That's really is more that included in the report for the coverage. That's mean that you can exclude it. It's more related with that. So let me search a little bit how it is that.
So yeah, what I mean is when you exclude something is because you cannot unit test it. Is that what you mean? You cannot test it, so you exclude it, right?
Yeah, because you don't need it. That doesn't mean yet you really don't need it, that kind of testing. So it's more related with that kind of thing. So let me search a special example that I have here. Oh, hold on a second. Oh, for example, this one. Okay, the notation is this. Let me see it where it is. Okay, I think that I can put it here. Exclude from code coverage. For this, I need to add. This using namespace. Diagnostic code and exclude from code coverage. Maybe it's at the beginning. I don't remember. Mhm. Don't do it. No. And I need to add in. Okay. Or I'm not sure that's maybe could be here. Now let me search and investigate a little bit more where I need to put it this. So in this case, that's suppose that I have to use using the system the diagnostics dot code analysis. That's suppose that I have to use. That's covered, but I'm not sure where I need to put it. I'm thinking it is this, but I'm not sure. You see that something's happened. Okay. So in that case, maybe I can put it, I don't know, maybe here. It's only for apply this. Yeah. Maybe I have to put in this or here. I don't know. No. Maybe with that, for example, if I'm running again here and I run in the test again, maybe, I don't know. This is still failing. That's no problem. No, that's something is maybe we are not including, because here you see everything is running except this. You see? And I'm expecting that is not working here. Okay. And that's all, guys. That's all that I have for you right now. I have to maybe try to fix the other errors. For the next session, we will go to see how we can complete these validate methods for the other class that we are missing, and maybe we can see what happens with that that operation. Okay. For the moment, I will be upload my changes here in my branch. Okay. And we will continue tomorrow. Some question until right now? Everything is clear? Are you understand everything, guys?
Yes.
I would think so, but until I actually put my hands to it, it's hard to really make sure I need to get.
Yeah, I know. So the idea is that maybe you can try to do this in your branch, and if you can do it, that's good. If you cannot, maybe you can take a look over my branch and see what are you missing. Okay. Okay, guys.
Yeah, sure. But if your branch is not working either, then we are kind of screwed.
No problem, man. No problem with that. Okay, perfect. So remember, this is the repository that you can clone, and after that you can create your own branch here. Okay, and after that you can see you can try to do it by yourself. Okay. Okay, guys, that's all for today. Thanks everybody for joining us. We can see you tomorrow.
Thank you, Julio. I hope you feel better soon.
That's good. Okay, thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Julio.